Oh, broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of King Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void live, and it looks like the tech is working a little bit better. Thank God, right? So we are live on YouTube, Fringe.fm, TuneIn, Live 365, TalkStream Live, the Paranormal Radio app, all the good places too. And just for your convenience, especially for the Discord people's convenience, I have put a voice room in the Discord. So at any point in time, if you want to be a part of the radio show through Discord, you can. Right now, I got Fysick in here, or Bryce actually, but you can just jump in. There's a voice room that says live show, and all you got to do is jump in, and I'll see you there. And probably once you jump in, you could just start talking, I think. Right, Bryce? You still there, brother? I hope you're still there. Otherwise, I'm going to look like an idiot. You're there, right?
No. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I'm just making sure everything works because you know how I like to play around with the tech stuff, right? Make it all work. I mean, look, we still got the phone lines. I still have a Skype line, a phone line. Now I've got a Discord line into the show. So there's really no other reason that you don't like chime into the show other than you just don't want to. That's it, right? I mean, despite the fact that some of us don't know Discord or even what it is, right? So welcome to Lighting the Void. Welcome to the Astral Dojo, right? Purple pencils. That's what's up. All right, so so Dutchie just dropped the Tom Campbell's video in the Discord to his response, which we talked about that yesterday, and I listened to his response, and like I said, I understand his point of view. I'm not trying to make that big of a deal out of it. It's just a really big deal to me, you know. But I understand why. I mean, I just don't agree with certain things. Like, as much as I love AI, I still don't agree that a conscious AI would be more important than conscious people. You know, that's the way I look at it. But who cares, right? And yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better than I was yesterday. This thing that I caught, man, is weird. I know, like, the cold viruses and stuff are weird or whatever, but it just seems like they're getting more weird or they're evolving or whatever. You know, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But, like, usually when you get a cold, it goes away, and then you're done with it. But not these sumbitches. These sumbitches, you know, they like to come back and screw with you. So right when you think you're better, next thing you know, you wake up and you're feeling like hell again. It's pretty crazy, actually. You ain't got sick this year yet, have you, Bryce? Or have you?
I'm crossing my fingers, but not yet.
You probably won't then. I think if you can make it till March without getting sick, you're probably not going to get sick.
Well, one of the guys I work with came back with something nasty, so we'll see. Yeah.
And I usually like, influenza to bronchitis, poison, fog. Yeah. I mean, I usually heal like Wolverine too, man. For a middle-aged man that's slightly chubby, I still heal pretty good. But this time it's been nuts, man. You know? It's just been crazy.
Yeah. I made one of our other employees help me wipe down the building with Clorox wipes.
That's good. I guess that helps.
Yeah.
But, you know, like this morning, I was so excited yesterday because I think it was My Endless Road told me yesterday to go to Walmart and get these Vicks bombs, shower bombs. So I tried. I hauled ass there. I didn't get there in time, but I went again today, and I didn't see any. They said that they have some, but they're sold out. But I really want to try that out. That's got to be all. You ever heard of that? Like a Vicks shower bomb?
A long time. They used to. Yeah, at one point in time they were a hot thing on commercials, but I hadn't heard of them in a while.
I don't know. You know, I'm getting to where little bitty things excite me. That's when you know you're getting old. When things like a new spice that you put on a food or a new over-the-counter medicine is one of the most exciting things about your week. That's when you're getting old, brother. You know.
I haven't had the luxury of experiencing that yet, but look forward to it.
Well, you're my age, I guess, right? So we're the same age.
Yep.
When we start talking about our diseases, you know what I mean? That's when you're old, right?
That's when you're old. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope everybody tried what were we doing last night as a homework assignment? The hypnagogic homework assignments. And speaking of getting old, man, it's getting a lot harder to do this. I don't know about you, bro, but like for me, it's getting harder. I guess maybe it's this time of the year, but it's just getting harder for me not to just straight fall asleep when I try to do this stuff. Man, I tried to stay in hypnagogia for 15 seconds last night, and it was hard, you know?
I hear you on that one.
Let me say,
I was having a hard time staying awake at work yesterday.
No, you can't fall asleep at work, man. That's not good.
I know. What's
up? We're going to say hi to the YouTube chat. What's up, Jenny, Trey, Mindless Road, Sir Wolf. What's up, Sir Wolf? Ain't seen you in a minute. Purple Pencils, Barney, Big B from Barney, and Grant, Christy Belly, and Abraham Garza, and all you lurkers out there. You passed out? Did you try it? If you tried it, then you passed out. That's cool, as long as you tried it. So we might do the same homework assignment tonight. Same thing. Who can stay in hypnagogia for like at least 15 seconds? We got to keep practicing, because if you don't, it's just like any other muscle, anything else. If you don't keep practicing this stuff, you're going to lose it. You know how you heard that term? You don't use it and you lose it. That's real.
Yeah.
When it comes to lots of things in life, especially conscious exploration. If you're just like, oh, hell with it, I'm just going to go to sleep. Well, then eventually you're going to lose that muscle that keeps you in that twilight state, you know.
Before I even knew what that was, I used to do that all the time. I'd see all kinds of cool pictures and stuff when I was falling asleep. It was fun.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like your brain's on shuffle. It really is. It'll start going crazy, and just none of the stuff that goes in your mind makes any sense. You know, like at all, whatsoever. But I wanted to get back into this text and go through this guy's journal again, because this was pretty cool. Jane says, how do you know if you're in hypnagogia, and does time feel the same in that state? Well, how do you know if you're in hypnagogia? Usually you know because you just woke back up from it. Or, damn, that's a good question. You know what, Bryce? How do you know if you're in hypnagogia? Well, you don't lose. So here's the thing. The hypnagogic state is the place between sleep and awake. So if you're fully awake, you're obviously not in hypnagogia, right? If you fall asleep, you're obviously not in hypnagogia. But it's almost like if you're fighting sleep and then you wake back up, you'll know that, oh, I was just in the hypnagogic state, that kind of thing. Or if you have a out of body experience, like if you're, laying down or whatever to have an out of body experience, and you actually transition and you have an out of body experience. Well, that transition, that place in there where the paralysis happened, is also hypnagogia. But it gets kind of tricky, because if you get into hypnagogia and then you fall asleep and you wake up, let's say the next day or whatever, you probably don't remember being in hypnagogia. Right? Am I right about that? Does that make sense? That makes sense, doesn't it, Bryce?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, well, because I think we all experience hypnagogia every night. And then when you fall asleep, you just forget it. So the key is, when you play with it, it's like falling almost asleep and then waking back up. That's how you kind of play with that state, you know? going to have Amazon deliver those Vicks bombs to my door? Okay. What's up? To me, she might have something to say about it, but yeah, a lot of times images come and go. It gets weird. Grant says, I'm working on holding it and remembering it, but I feel my states are deepening after all these months of, well, you've been practicing like a lot though. So yeah, the states are going to deepen. You're probably going to get better at it. We can get into that. I think, you know what, that's a good thing to get into, like starting now into next week. We'll just get into like how to really play with Hypnagogia. So, let's get back into Ardema's experiments. I'm probably saying this guy's name all wrong, but the text is Explorations in Consciousness by Frederick Ardema. What upsets? Man, I don't know. I can't keep up with what all you guys are saying in the Discord and YouTube. I'll have to check that stuff out later. Otherwise, if you want to talk about it like during the show, just jump into the live show thing. So he said, having an experiment in mind before bedtime, I woke in the middle of the night. Now, this is July 4th, 2006. He said, conditions were excellent. I only needed to touch slightly on the hypnagogic state of sleep to trigger the vibrations, which as usual spread out across my body, quickly reaching a frequency of around 200 beats per minute. I don't know how the hell they like measure that. But I knew better than to think that my physical body was shaking, at least not in a visible manner. But what if I could feel the vibrations with my hands? All right, so this is the one we talked about yesterday. So let's move to the next one. You can't do that. I can't do that. If this guy can do that, that's great. But I can't see the vibrations. I can't feel them with my hands. It just feels like a slight, I don't know how to explain it, like a slight hum in the body. So Sunday, March 11th, 2007, 5:20 a.m. Notice the times of these too. He said, I had a bit of a scare last night, following my usual pattern. I entered the hypnagogic state of sleep to induce the vibrations. Then suddenly, my heart began to thump inside my chest at an almost impossible rate, approximately 220 beats per minute. Now, that has happened to me before. I don't know if it was that damn fast, but worse, my chest tightened, and for a short while, I had a strong impression of a heavy wooden beam pressing down on me. I almost panicked with the thought of a heart attack, but remembered similar accounts in which such a rapid heartbeat always turned out to be an illusory phenomena. I was able to compose myself, yet I had never experienced anything like this before, at least not with the tightness in my chest. I was not all sure if I would come out of this unscathed, and I had really done it this time, I thought. Carefully, as not to get or to upset anything further, I began to move out of the hypnagogic state at a very measured pace. And slowly but surely, the rapid heartbeat was replaced by the pulse of a regular heartbeat. And for a while, I experienced a dual type of perception in which one sensation fades into awareness, the normal heartbeat, and the other sensation fades out of awareness, which is the rapid heartbeat. And eventually, I returned to full wakefulness, in which everything seemed to be completely normal, as if nothing out of the ordinary ever took place. That's probably, I don't know if any of you guys have ever had that happen, or if you have, Bryce, or that is something that I've experienced, though. Like slipping into hypnagogia and my heart rate speeds up. It kind of freaks you out a little bit. It freaks me out a little bit. But it seems pretty harmless, though. Does that ever happen to you, Bryce? You ever had your heart rate speed up?
I thought it was my heart rate, but it was like a weird pulsing through my body. It was like, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Maybe that's what it is, because
it's because like I would, like, I freaked out. Like, it happened to me the other day, and I kind of freaked out a little bit, and I checked my pulse. My pulse was normal, but I could still feel it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe it's not. That would be crazy if it's not the heart, because I've had a couple other people tell me that when they slip into hypnagogia, their heart rate will speed up. especially if they're like fighting it, like trying to wake back up from it. The heart will tend to speed up a little bit. But what if
that's exactly what happened to me? Because I was fighting it.
You think that's dangerous or harmless?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it's really weird, isn't it? Why would the heart rate speed up like that?
The only thing I can think of is your adrenaline going, trying to wake yourself up out of it. That's the only thing I can really think of.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sleeping and waking though. Like,
right.
Usually your heart rate will speed up if something's, like it's adrenaline, like you're talking about, or if you're doing something to the body that's kind of stressful. But you're not really doing any. I mean, you're so relaxed. It's kind of crazy. We'll have to look into that further too. But others have noted an increased sensitivity to internal stimuli when the physical body is about to fall asleep, which may manifest as an awareness that the pores of your skin breathe. I don't know about that one. Hearing the swish of blood flow behind your ears. I've heard that. Feeling your heartbeat, like where you can hear or feel your heartbeat. Definitely, that's real. But an awareness that the pores of your skin is breathing, that's not a common one. That's the first time I've ever even heard of that. He says, though, if this seems too difficult to imagine, consider a medical disorder of the inner ear such as superior canal dehiscence syndrome, which leads the sufferer to hear the eyeballs moving in their sockets like, oh God, I can't even read this, sandpaper on wood. Holy shit, dude. Can you imagine living with that? Like every time you move your eyes, it sounds like sandpaper. What the That's a real thing?
I don't know.
It's insane, dude. All right. In the case of energy sensations, we're dealing with the perception of the internal bodily phenomena as well, except that they're often experienced in a distorted format. In particular, my own observations are remarkably consistent with those noted by the late physicist and philosopher Isaac Bentov, who holds that energy sensations can be traced back to the pressure pulses traveling through the vascular system, ultimately originating from the heart muscle, the noisiest organ in the body. Yeah, so again, like I totally remember hearing my heartbeat like in my ear, even when I lay on the pillow. That stuff's been happening to me since I was a kid though. But like anything else, like feeling like my skin opening up, like the pores in my skin opening, or I don't know, man, that's just weird. Now he goes on to say, interestingly, in this regard, people with quadriplegia have reported energy sensations as well as trying to induce the out-of-body state, confirming that not every torso and limb sensation reaches the brain through the spinal cord. Some predictions can also be derived from the current conceptualizations, such as those individuals with a stronger cardiovascular system will experience stronger energy sensations. I don't know. I don't know how you can even measure this stuff, or by what you would measure it with. Most people are probably familiar with the sensation of just being about to fall asleep, and when they get poked by somebody, it jolts them awake as if they were hit with a sledgehammer. Alternatively, you might be just about to doze off when an outside noise is experienced as if the world has come crashing down. And these distortions generally occur because a state of sensory reduction disallows for the proper integration and perception of external stimuli. Why? Dude, this guy is really picking this stuff apart, because I just think about like something just scared the hell out of me as I was falling asleep. I didn't even think about it as like an energy reduction or something like that. He says similar distortions and translation factors seem to occur in the case of energy sensations in which normal bodily phenomena are experienced as vibrations, shaking, buzzing, light flashes, noises, voices, and so on. You know, Bryce, I don't know if I ever asked you what the vibratory state's like for you. Is it Do you feel it or hear vibrations? Is it violent, or have you even got there?
It's like electricity coursing through my body.
Yeah, but it's not like a. Is it bad or light or what?
It's what do you mean by light? Like a light sensation or like a violent sensation?
Like the intensity level of it.
It's I don't know. It's I've experienced both ways.
Yeah. See, I've never experienced anything like super crazy as far as the intensity is concerned. You know. Never like super electricity or really loud noises. It's always been kind of like if someone just like hooked me up to a 9-volt battery, or you know what your tongue feels like when you put it to a battery, like my body will start feeling like that. If that makes sense. And it's not uncomfortable. It actually kind of feels good. It doesn't feel like scary or anything, you know. Does yours feel that good? Does yours feel good? Does it feel good, Brian?
I mean, I don't know what you define as good.
Like it's comfortable.
It's different.
It's not uncomfortable.
It feels like I'm getting hit sometimes.
Damn.
Just like,
all right.
Yeah.
So I think this is what freaks people out, man. Because I'm one of those people that talk about like when you get out of body, oh, it's pleasant, man. It's not, it's nothing to worry about. But I never really take into consideration that other people go through crazy shit when they have an out of body experience or they're in hypnagogia, I think I project all of my wonderful loveliness about it onto everybody sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
Because you're saying like it feels like you get hit with electricity. That's crazy.
It's like a slow pulse, like getting hit repeatedly with like maybe a pillow.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
So this guy goes on to say the psychophysiological translation of internal stimuli into energy sensations may also cross sensory boundaries, causing objective tactile sensations to translate into visual imagery. And I see, I've never seen a damn thing. I always had my eyes shut though, but I've never seen anything like. Well, I take that back. I mean, I've seen something try to push me back into my body, but I've never seen anything like energy swirls or lights or anything. Have you seen shit practicing this stuff?
I've seen faces.
Really? Like faces of what?
Just random faces.
Did it scare you?
Yeah, because some of them were like almost demonic.
And I'm talking about, are you talking about hypnagogia or, well, I mean, it's all kind of really the same thing. So is that what you're talking about specifically? It's like in hypnagogia, you've seen faces, or when you're actually trying to get out of body?
Well, I mean, yeah, they're kind of the same thing, but in hypnagogia, more or less.
I think I've seen the faces too, like scary faces. Isn't that weird? Like the brain will just spit out like a scary face that I'm going to say something weird because I think I know what you're talking about. And correct me if it's not the same thing. But like as I'm falling asleep, I will like have just a really flash image of like scary things go into my mind, like a scary face. And here's the crazy thing about it too. It's usually a face that I've never seen before, but my mind either made it up. I'm hoping my mind made it up, but I've never seen it before. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with you?
Yeah.
What is that? I wonder what that is.
I don't know. It's weird. I told you one time I was falling asleep, and I saw a light so bright in my while my eyes were closed that it hurt. It literally hurt my eyes. like I was staring down like a spotlight.
Really?
Yeah.
What's up, Sammy? I just popped in when Joe asked the question. Yeah. So when I get out of body, it's usually during sleep, and then it's instantaneous, and I'm off. Yeah, yeah. So I've had that exploding head thing. Something jerked me awake so bad, like as I was falling asleep, I seen a tree and like smacked it once, and it jerked me awake, almost like I was in a car wreck or something. But the scary faces is weird, man. And I know since you and me both kind of see that thing, have seen those, you don't see them all the time, right? Like,
No.
just sometimes. And if you and I have seen these scary faces in Hypnagogia, then that means lots of other people have seen them. Can you imagine if we all kind of just like drew the faces that we saw, what that would look like? Like on a piece of paper, like a piece of art?
Wouldn't it be crazy if they all looked real similar?
That would be freaking crazy if we were all seeing the same. But I can tell you, man, for sure, like it's so crazy. It's almost as fast as like the speed of light or the internet that these faces just pop up in my, I guess, mind's eye, I want to say. And some of them are so detailed, it's stupid. That kind of freaks me out thinking about it. Like, because I remember actually waking up one time, seeing what you're talking about and thinking to myself, okay, well, I didn't see a movie with this face. I've never seen this face. My mind made up this freaky looking face in like less than a second, out of nowhere. Is that my mind doing that? That makes you wonder sometimes, right? Is that really like my mind, or is there something like outside intruding,
Right.
You've had to have thought about that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And then when I started doing the middle pillar exercises, that a lot of that went away, oddly enough.
Uh-huh.
Like I started seeing different things, but they weren't. I started seeing shapes, just geometric shapes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I should ask more people what happens to them after they do like the middle pillar and banishing rituals and stuff, I don't ask it enough. I just assume that like people are having a balanced experience. Sammy says, when I pop out, I see beings and surroundings different than when you're in the wake world. Yeah, that's kind of that's the out of body state. But I think what we're talking about right now, more specifically, is the hypnagogic state, right? Why all the weird stuff happens. Like the exploding head thing. I know that sounds crazy when I talk about exploding head syndrome, like your head's really going to blow up, but it doesn't though. It's so if anybody doesn't know what this is, like I can try to explain it like this. You don't have exploding head, Bryce, right? I'm pretty sure. Have I talked to you about that?
It's it's still in one piece, I think.
Yeah, no. Like, so this is what it feels like, right? So, for instance, it happened to me the other day. It might be because we're overstimulated, maybe, or that we don't get enough sleep. Hell, I don't know. But I start to nod off at my desk, and then it'll feel like something just blows up in my head, like real quick. Just one. It's not like your head explodes, but it feels like something just kind of pops in your head, and you can feel the pressure in your ears and stuff too,
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, that's never really happened. I have heard like voices and stuff in my head as I was falling asleep, and it'd wake me up. And then the spotlight thing.
Got to do a whole show on exploding head syndrome one day.
And I was wondering what that light, why I saw that bright flash of light in front of my face like that. And I looked it up, and they said that was they said that was like an exploding head symptom or something.
Yeah.
And then the next night you talked about exploding head syndrome on the show.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I had it for like a week straight one time, man. I remember thinking I might need to go to the doctor because I would just be sitting here chilling and something would just feel like it explodes in your head, but it doesn't. It doesn't hurt you. It's really weird. But I think I might have been on drugs then though. Like maybe I was partying too much or something, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But still, your head shouldn't feel like it's exploding on the inside. Um, so Frederick says the exact manner in which bodily stimuli are perceptually translated is often dependent on your psychological mindset at the time. In some cases, they give rise to more complex hallucinatory types of experiences, only very remotely related to the original body sensation. For example, and doesn't mean you have to agree with it. I'm just reading what he's saying here. He says, for example, a fearful attitude might lead you to hear a screaming or threatening voice. Likewise, marginal pressure on your skin from the sheets could lead to a sensation of pressure on the chest as if an entity were sitting on your chest, especially if this occurs in combination with sleep paralysis. See, I don't know if I agree with that, man. What he's saying is, depending on what you were thinking about or what your body's kind of touching as you fall asleep, is the experiences you're going to happen. That's going to happen. But I don't think I agree with that. Like, I've been in hypnagogia before and heard a girl scream that echoed. It sounded like I was in an echo chamber, and she literally screamed, and I heard it like she was in the further screaming. Man, it didn't scare me at all. I wasn't afraid. I didn't even feel fearful, if that makes any sense. That doesn't make any sense, does it, Bryce?
Uh-uh.
But I wasn't scared. I did hear a girl scream in hypnagogia, but I just didn't scare me. I wasn't in a fearful state at all, is my point. And he's saying, well, you might hear that stuff if you're in a fearful state when you fall asleep. Well, I don't think so. I think sometimes you just hear shit. You know? I don't know.
Well, yeah, and one thing that I don't know, I used to play with is as I was falling asleep, I'd have a TV or a radio or something on in the background, and I could tell when my senses were starting to cut out, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit.
What do you mean?
If that makes sense. Like you hear all that ambient noise in the background with as you're falling asleep, and then all of a sudden everything just goes quiet. But
Yeah.
that stuff is still going on, but you can't hear it. So then you wake up and you're like, okay, it's still there, right? And you try to fall back asleep, and it happens again. It's kind of strange if you ever get to that.
I used to stare at stuff, bro, until things would just disappear. Like, I could do that. I could stare at stuff so long that they would just disappear and I wouldn't see anything. Like nothing. Not even blackness. I wouldn't even see blackness. Everything would just turn void. If that's kind of what you're talking about. But that's not really the same as hypnagogia, or is it? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know. It's like, but my sense of hearing would just cut out, right?
Holy
it's like
shit.
if somebody was, it's like if you were talking to somebody on Discord and they just kept talking and you hit the mute button, right? But it's the whole world.
That might be the Charlie Brown effect. You might actually be experiencing that for real.
Charlie Brown effect?
Yeah, you remember watching Charlie Brown and people would start going womp, 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 womp when they were ignoring him,
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you have. See, this is what's cool to me. Like, I do think certain people have like different sensory gifts, if that makes sense. I'm just going to call them gifts. I'm not trying to get woo, but I know some people can see things where other people can hear things, and then other people can feel things, or vice versa. Like what we're talking about. Like, let's say you just zone out for so deep and so long, and you start to lose certain sensations. Like, I can zone out long enough to where stuff will just start disappearing in my vision.
Yeah.
And you're saying you can do it where stuff will just shut off as far as what you can hear.
Right.
I wonder what that means. So.
Mm. Yeah, but you talked about staring at until your vision cuts out. But sometimes when I'm laying down trying to go to sleep, I'll try to visualize the room, and then I can almost see it. Right, the pitch black in my bedroom. I'll close my eyes, and then I can see my surroundings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I don't know. I find that kind of strange.
Listen, that one night, not too long ago, when I was in Hypnagogia, I heard a screaming. I want to get back to this, okay?
Okay.
And it's the kind of screaming that you hear in horror flicks. Now, the screaming wasn't close up, though. It sounded like it was far away. But I was in such a deep state of like sleep or trance, whatever, that it didn't affect me. It didn't scare me. In fact, I don't want to like, sound weird, but I didn't get scared until after I woke up and realized that I heard the scream. Does that make any sense what I'm saying? I know I sound like a nutcase right now, but I didn't.
I mean, kind of.
It didn't, like, I didn't feel fear or I didn't feel anything. I just remember hearing a scream. And then I kind of was like, oh, in my mind, I'm like, that was a scream, whatever, And then I woke up and then it freaked me out thinking about it. Shouldn't I have been freaked out when I heard it?
It's kind of like when you watch. You ever watched a horror movie? Or like an episode of Twilight Zone, and you're like, you get to the end of the episode and you're like, well, that's interesting, and then you start thinking about it, and then you start getting freaked out.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same thing, I guess.
Sir Wolf says that can happen with sex. Sound can disappear until it's over, like another state of dimension. I'd never had that happen.
Oh, I thought you meant freaking out.
No, he's talking about sound disappearing during sex. Usually you're trying to tell him to be quiet. Shh, you're gonna wake somebody up, not sound disappear. I don't know, man. That's interesting though. You might be have something going on there or whatever. Processing. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's a delayed processing in Hypnagogia or something. But that doesn't make sense, dude. I haven't had a nightmare in years, probably since I was little. If I have a nightmare, I feel the fear in the damn nightmare, like it's present. But I just feel like in Hypnagogia, you do lose some kind of sense of awareness. Does that make sense? Like it could be your senses, maybe, but it's almost like you process things slower. Or maybe I do. I don't know. Oh, you mean music? Okay. I don't know about that, Sir Wolf. Like, put music on in the background. I usually don't pay attention to it anyways. During sex. I don't know. All right. So he goes on. See, this is why I don't agree. It's okay not to agree with a lot of things these authors say. It's not that I don't agree. It's just I don't have the same experiences. Like, he goes on to say, it should be recognized that there are still several unknowns with respect to the distorted perception of normal internal bodily phenomena. The exact mechanisms responsible for hypersensitivity to internal stimuli are not known, either, except that they seem associated with sensory reduction and attention. It seems quite clear, however, that in the vast majority of instances, energy sensations do find their origin in marginal sensory input, usually of an internal origin. I don't know where the hell he's getting all this stuff from. He says, I do not wish to exclude the possibility that these sensations relate to, quote, energy on some level, since after all, as quantum physics teach us, all mass is energy. However, trivial references to potential quantum mechanical factors do not really clarify the issue, especially if energy sensations are also coherently explained on a materialistic macro level, an explanation generally rejected in more esoteric accounts. Well, everything is energy, so it just makes it cool when you say it's energy. So to avoid confusion, I will continue to use the term energy sensations, which at least from an experiential perspective describe these sensations quite well. Besides, energy sensations do not solely occur in a hypnagogic state of mind. Consequently, using the term hypnagogic to describe these sensations is inappropriate to begin with. You know what's inappropriate? Saying all that stuff. No, I mean, to me, this is just redundant info. It doesn't really matter. Just get to the information.
You got to call it something, though.
I mean, I get it, but he's writing paragraphs about like just less than semantics, you know.
He kind of like he kind of went back on himself and said that it's hypnagogic. It's like you got to call it something. What are you going to call it? I mean, that's what everybody knows it as.
Yeah, just call it what it is, man. You know, who cares? Yeah. So, some propose meditative techniques or trance techniques, which are simply variants of techniques aimed at reducing sensory input. Robert Monroe suggests entering the hypnagogic state of sleep and reaching for and drawing in vibrations from above the head. Likewise, the projector Robert Bruce notes that all techniques for OBEs involve the person's focusing outside of the body, away from any inner movement. Then he goes on to say, my own observations, however, suggest that it is not merely a focus of attention directed outside of the body that triggers energy sensations. Rather, energy sensations and somatosensory sensations in particular typically occur when you direct attention toward physical body awareness from an otherwise inward orientated focus. I don't understand anything he just said. Do you understand what that means, Bryce? Because I don't.
I'm still trying to process the somatic word.
Do you ever feel like sometimes people say shit? I'm not saying this guy's doing it, but sometimes people say stuff just because they want to sound smart and it sounds stupid. My own observations suggest that it's not merely a focus of attention directed outside of the body that triggers sensations, rather energy sensations and somatosensory sensations in particular occur when you direct attention towards the physical body awareness from an otherwise inward orientated focus.
Basically, he's saying, why don't you just say from physical sensations created by the mind?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somatosensory sensations is basically paralyzed sensations, like you're in a state of paralysis and you're picking up on subtle things, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not surprising, since as discussed earlier, energy sensations are associated with events occurring in the physical body, heartbeat, pressure, pulses, blood flow, etc. Attention needs to be focused on the body, at least to a certain extent, in order to trigger these sensations. See, I don't agree with that, dude. Like the vibratory state comes on when it comes on. Like for me, the vibratory state just comes on regardless if I'm thinking about the body or even focused on it or not. It just happens. Matter of fact, sometimes it happens and then I observe it. I'm like, oh, I'm at the vibratory state now, you know? I'm not even thinking about. I think this is what Thomas Campbell talks about when shit gets too intellectual, you know? It just.
I mean, this is a book, right? Not a journal entry.
Yeah, there's journal entries in the book, but yeah, this is a book.
This is like describing what happened. Like, so like, why don't you just simplify it for the reader, right? You're trying to describe what's happening. if he published it. I mean, come on.
That's what I think. Always
Yeah.
try to make things more simple when people are reading stuff, not harder, you know. We've gotten past that old day and age where people feel smart when they're reading big words, you know. Just make it make sense. So here's a journal entry, Saturday, June 24th, 2006 at 3:35 a.m. Keep noticing these times. A lot of them are super early morning or witching hour times too. So he goes, I was able to put several ideas regarding the transition process to a final test last night. In particular, I wanted to pay close attention to any changes in my physical body sensations in the course of the transition process. I began by moving toward the sleep border, and initially I had trouble maintaining lucidity, and each time I drifted off into sleep. So he's playing with hypnagogia, basically. He says, I forgot to divert attention back to my body, and I frequently woke up, reminded myself of my purpose, and then repeated the process over and over again. However, over time, perhaps far more than an hour, I began to notice an interesting effect of my activity. It became progressively easier to move into sleep without losing consciousness, and eventually I became so lucid that it was difficult to discern any difference between waking and sleeping. It felt as if the veil between waking and sleeping had collapsed, and no longer was it I who had to mentally approach the borderline of sleep. Rather, the borderline of sleep was encroaching upon me. I felt a very subtle rocking or trembling sensation accompanied by an almost liquid sense of mental and physical relaxation. And right then and there, I knew I could easily move into sleep without losing any lucidity in the process. I relaxed my awareness and kept my attention loosely focused on my physical body, and almost immediately the transition process was set into motion, with several chill-like sensations spreading across my body. I relaxed even more, and the energy sensations intensified. All the while, I remained highly attentive to any changes in the body awareness. I expected that perhaps any physical sensations would fade away, including my sense of having a body. Yet as the transition process unfolded, nothing truly changed. I remained aware of everything: my body, the sheets, the mattress, the bed I was lying in. The situation was no different at the end of the transition process. I still felt my body, the bed, even the pillow against my face. Yet, I knew for certain that I was ready to move out, and the energy sensations had intensified quite sufficiently. I slowly moved my head up. Again, I remained focused on any changes in sensation, and there was nothing to indicate any sort of separation. Nothing was moving, quote, out. Yet I was certain I had reached the out-of-body state. It was not my physical head that I was moving, even though it was the same head I had felt just a moment ago. I then moved my head back into the pillow, and there was no sense of a return to the body either. I moved my head up and down a few more times just to see if I'd missed anything, but there was nothing to suggest any sort of separation. And eventually, I lifted myself up completely and sat on the edge of the bed, puzzled. I took a quick glance back at the bed and noticed there was no body lying in the bed. And oddly enough, this was the only thing that made sense so far. I had never left the body. I had simply gotten up. With that last observation, I decided to leave my experimentation behind, walked up to the bedroom window, and flew outside into the garden. What the hell? See, this makes things so much more confusing. Like, I was with him all the way up where he was talking about there was no sensation, like I didn't feel any separation. I didn't even feel like I was moving, quote, out of the body, which I can relate to that because it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like you're sitting up, and that's it. But when he says he looked back to the bed and he wasn't laying there, how does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. And you guys, this is why I stay like focused on this subject matter, because there's really like no set. There's a lot of common denominators and things that happen to people, but there's so many variables that it just doesn't seem real sometimes. Like everything he described was almost exactly how I have an out-of-body experience, where you feel like there's no separation whatsoever. It feels normal, just like how you and I feel right now. It feels exactly the same. But when you sit up, every time, if you look back, you should see yourself, your body sleeping. This time he said he didn't see it. He didn't see his body, but yet he still went to the window and flew out the window, which makes me think that maybe he's in a dream. Any thoughts on this, Bryce, before we cut to break? Because that's pretty trippy.
Yeah, I can't attest to any of that. I mean, I don't know what to think about it.
He said there's nothing that leaves the physical body in this experience. There was no second body, nor was there any transferal of consciousness from one body to another. Instead, there was a complete continuity of body awareness during the transition, despite a pronounced reduction in sensory input during the course of the transition process. So he felt all the reducing paralysis stuff. But under these circumstances, because of the continuity of body awareness, you will usually not see your physical body lying in bed after having established the out-of-body state. This makes sense, except for the absence of sensory input. You're walking around in the same body image you occupy in ordinary consciousness, with no image of the physical body left behind. I don't know why he talks about this like this is such a normal thing, because that's never happened to me.
I've only ever looked back once and I saw my body just a flash before I got sucked back into myself.
So wait,
if that makes sense.
Have you not had the full OBE experience?
I have, yeah. When I was younger, definitely, but more recently I knew I got out, but then as soon as I looked out or looked back, I saw just a flash of myself, and then I was pulled right back. That makes sense.
When I did the thing at Arizona, didn't you just fall asleep? Weren't you one of the people that just fell asleep?
No, I didn't fall asleep, but I didn't get anywhere either.
You didn't go out either, yeah. I think you and Graham and a couple other people were kind of in that just relaxed whatever state, right?
Yeah.
And didn't leave there. Damn. This just doesn't make sense to me.
I haven't been able to, I mean, unless I've been really sick, I haven't been able just to get out. You know what I'm talking about?
You get out when you're sick?
Sometimes, yeah.
See, I mean, everything he's saying makes sense with what Muldoon talks about. Like our consciousness, that etheric person that we actually are inside this body or whatever you want to call it, inside, outside, whatever. But that awareness is the thing that's who we actually are. Like if we took that out of our body, we would just be flesh that flopped around, you know?
Right.
According to what he says. So yeah, when you go to sit up and you go to do anything, it's just going to feel normal. It's not going to feel like a separation or a transition. Not every time, but maybe I just don't understand. Like my brain's not figuring out why he didn't see his physical body. Because if he didn't see his physical body, then he's not in that same place that I was, or something. There's a whole other place or something. Because this is like boggling the hell out of me right now. I don't like it. I think I have control issues. Like I have to know everything about all of this stuff, you know, for some stupid reason.
I think it's just different for different people. I mean, I'm not going to say the guys doesn't know the difference between hypnagogia and out of body.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, or a lucid dream and out of body, but you know, I think different people just experience it in different ways. I think that's an absolute possibility.
Yeah, it's a possibility. But all the research that we've done on the show and all the books that we've read and the people that have talked about their experiences, is this, unless I'm totally wrong, like this is the first guy that's explained it where he had a perfect transition, perfectly explains getting out of body just like most people do. And yet this is the first time I've ever heard of someone looking back after that transition and their body's just not there. You know what I mean?
You know, he could have been. Yeah, he could. I mean, he could be mistaken, or you know, it could just be the way he experiences out of body.
Oh.
I mean, one of the things that I've heard about is, I mean, like with what's his name, is just similar realities, but not exactly the same thing, or you have a hard time interpreting the reality that you're in when you're out of body.
Yeah. Sammy says, I would love to chat with you both up there. Well, all you do is you go into the Discord and you go to the voice channels, and there's a channel that says, well, we're actually in gaming. So just jump in that one. But there's a live channel voice chat room. So as soon as you connect to that with the voice, you're on the show. We'd love to hear your 2 cents, Sammy. So maybe you could figure that out like during break. Didn't Sammy jump in one night when we were playing video games in there? I think
he was text chatting. I don't know.
No, you remember you and I were playing something, and I was in Texas at the time. I think she jumped in and was like, "Hey," and we was like, "Oh shit, that was Sammy, wasn't it?"
That was Sammy. Yeah, that was Sammy.
Yeah. All right, we'll do the same thing. Just find us in the gaming chat. We'll take a break though. We'll be right back. We're actually going through explorations in consciousness, not reading the whole thing, but just kind of going through it. The guy's name is Frederick. What is this guy's last name? Ayardema. I'm probably saying it wrong. It's a pretty cool book. It's worth going through, where he talks about we're talking about separation and the hypnagogic state. We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void coming up. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Kronos from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is Fee, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and I heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, aka the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt, and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean, and there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
You are listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Whoa, dude, that scared the hell out of me. All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void Radio here live on the Fringe FM, YouTube, all the places that we're live. And now we've got a Discord channel into the radio show too. So I got Bryce here with me, and then Sammy just jumped in. So what'd you say you wanted to put your 2 cents in about the out-of-body process transition thingy-majig? Right, yeah. Sammy?
Well, I've been very, very fortunate in dealing with life as a child. I automatically would go out of my body at night, not realizing that's what I was doing. And I think part of it, if I look back, was to have an escape from what I was living. So I just did this naturally, not knowing till I got older what was happening. And then when I realized it, I kind of sort of played with it. One time I went and got my mom and took her to the store during, something like this. So the next day I tried to ask her if she remembered having any dreams. Because I had a dream, this is what I told her. I had a dream we went to the store and we were looking at purses. So that was just an example of me coming to realize what I was already doing. But then when I read books, like you're reading this book, I find it very interesting how some people have become aware that we are capable of this, that we do this. And because of the way that we are taught from the day that we take our first breath, in order to know anything, we have to be taught something. So there are steps and a process to everything. Just like, when you do your schoolwork and you've got to do your math test or whatever that is. So you can't just put answers. You've got to show your math work, right? So the thing is, it's like having the answer and not knowing why or how you got your answer, but you just know the answer. And so you trust it. But then, you know, where these people are writing their books, they're trying to give everyone
answers,
a way to grasp the concept. I think they want people to grasp the concept. And so it makes it to the point where we have all these details that may not make sense to us. But I think all in all, if people would realize that, so when you leave your body, I hear a lot of talk about the paralysis, and I've had that before, and it's kind of scary. Mine was upon re-entry, and it was almost like wolves were after me trying to get back in my body. And so I don't know what was going on, but it was like scary, very, very, very scary. And I remember during the process trying to wake myself up. And when I did open my eyes, what I was seeing was still in that realm because I still was out of my body rather than the reality. My reality is I used to shut and lock my bedroom door at night. But in this realm, my door was open. And I was freaking out about everything, about the door being open, about can't get back in, not knowing that's what was happening. And so I was freaking out. But a lot of the time when you're reading this stuff, some of it you have to understand is this person is trying to lead you there. So you're not going to throw a fish hook in the water without a fishing line. You need that line to achieve that. So I think these people think that this is their fishing line. This is details that are important for someone. It's gonna trigger something to help them understand this is possible. And so we get a lot of details or extra, almost like our junk DNA. You're gonna have extra stuff in there.
Yeah.
But ultimately realize the overall purpose of this, because each and every one of us, no matter what, you will find your own way to get there, and it won't be the same as all these details. But I think the people writing about it and sharing it is really important, because maybe some people that don't believe or don't understand or don't want to try get to that place of understanding, oh, this is happening. This really is happening to someone. So you look back at this guy, and most people would say you're crazy, you're lunatic, whatever. But the thing is, these are real true things that when you're connected to yourself, when you get deep down inside, you can relax and do your deep breathing and just let go. Eventually, you just get there. You just get there. Trust that your body and your soul knows, and that you will get there. But that's all that I can say about that, because of the simple fact is, for me, it was always second nature. Now, as I got older, I quit doing it because I had an incident at like 15 or 16. I woke up on the side of the bed, and I was fully dressed, had on my coat and my boots were muddy, and I don't remember going anywhere.
Holy shit.
And I thought, yeah, I thought this is a problem. And so it totally shut me down. It freaked me out.
Yeah, that'll end you up in the psych ward too. What if you're wandering around outside and you don't even know it, you know?
Yeah.
Like some
well,
cop,
I had to be.
the county cop pulls up next to you and says, "Ma'am, what are you doing?" And you're asleep, you know? Yeah. That could be a issue.
So I was like, okay, whatever this is, I gotta put a stop to it. And it kind of make me hyper vigilant and worrisome and very thoughtful of what was happening, what is going on with me, what's going on inside of me. And when you start getting those thoughts and you start focusing on the physical body and you start focusing on all these details he's focusing on, it can stop or slow the process.
Yeah, and I get that too. Like I wouldn't have gotten out of body if it wasn't for these books. If it wasn't for instruction, I would have never achieved it. Like I needed that. And I think a lot of times when these people talk about the details, it relates to a certain amount of people. Others maybe not, but some people it does, and it helps them. But the transition state, which is the big thing, that's the big mystery for everybody. How do I transition from in the body to, quote, out of the body. Well, we don't even really know for out of the body to begin with, but that transition thing, I could definitely relate to what you're saying too, because no matter how detailed I get about there's a feeling there that it's almost like riding a bicycle, you know?
Yep. Well, when you keep having that experience and you keep remembering that part of the experience, it's good. But you're putting more focus on just having that experience. So let me ask you, when you decide to go outside to the backyard, when you open the door, do you stand in the doorway or do you just walk right outside?
I don't remember. I think I just went straight outside.
So ultimately, when a person makes a decision, hey, I'm going to go outside in the backyard, and they go open the door, are they going to stand in the doorway, or do you think they're just going to proceed from inside the house to outside the house and be in the backyard?
It depends. Like, I have ADD, so I'll stand in the doorway sometimes, especially if I see a squirrel.
Well, that's what I feel like is happening to a lot of people during their transition, is there's so much focus and emphasis and attention to that standing in the doorway, the leaving of the house, and the process is kind of not frozen, but then you're having more of that experience to the point where if you just could understand that it's the same as getting out into the backyard and putting your feet in the grass. So once you realize that your ultimate goal is to achieve stepping outside, know that's what you're going to do and let it happen. And eventually, after enough times where it doesn't happen, one day it will. It just does. But part of that means truly trusting that your body and your soul know and that it will happen. But some people don't get there without trauma, because it breaks you away from everything that you're experiencing in the physical world and causes you to feel from within.
Maybe that's why I never had any trauma with it, because I always wanted to, I guess I deeply desired to see the other side, you know? So when it happened, it was more of like an exciting thing for me.
So when you read about these things for the OBE, right? You read about these things in these books. Try reading books like, I read a book one time on this man that had a car accident. And what was so funny was he said in the moments when he died at the scene, he could hear and see all of the people praying for him, not knowing him. He could hear their prayers. He could see vessels of light coming from these beings, these people who were praying, people that were working on him, trying to save him. And therefore, it's an experience that he had in that realm. That's that part of you that can see all of that.
Yeah.
But this can also help people to start to understand about other realms and about other people's experiences, because that's an immediate, completely, totally, it is different. It's entirely different from the OBE, but at the same time, it's an example of an experience that someone had. They had absolutely no idea that it was just part of their soul taking over. Their whole, everything else that they are besides that physical being has taken over. And they get to observe the other realm. When you have left your body for some reason, and I've had this discussion with my husband, you can see everything that exists in the realm just outside of you. And so you may see all the faces. You may see things may look a little different than what they do in your reality. But it's somewhere, somehow, some way, it's a part of that realm.
Gotcha.
But those are my experiences. And that's sometimes you can't allow yourself to get lost in the details. Realize read all of his details, but summarize it to the point where you can completely understand he's just trying to get from point A to point B. He's just taking forever to get there.
Well, yeah, because I would just say for the past a year or two, that's all we've been doing is reading details on this show. And I like the details.
Yep.
So, like, if it was all about just getting from point A to point B, then I don't even think we'd have a show.
Right. Right. But eventually, someday, once you've experienced it one time, there's now a knowing within you that you can tap into. It's like planting a seed to let that seed grow. And as you read these people's details, realize at some point he's made that, he's had to have achieved it. So understand that's his way of getting there, maybe. And I don't know if it's just a lack of being able to express himself any differently. But
I don't know. This is one of the top selling OBE books out there.
Yeah. I happened on these things happen to us by accident, in a sense, because I didn't know I was doing it till I got older.
Gotcha.
Till I was an adult.
Well, I appreciate you sharing
can read
that.
More. Yes.
Yeah, no, I want to hear everybody's story because I have to put this stuff together in my head. See, it's not just about the achieving the out of body thing. I've already done that. For me, it's about the details. It's about hearing everybody's experience. It's about exploring this entire world. And I personally don't want to pass up on any details because I might learn something from them,
right?
Or I might learn something from somebody else. You know. I think when I started this, a lot of people were just
people's understanding.
Yeah.
You gain a concept on some of how people's brains function, and their understanding of these things is really important. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, Sammy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, here's his journal entry, Tuesday, October 17th of 2006. Now, I'm probably pronouncing this guy's name wrong, but remember, guys, when I looked at these books up, I went through the voting, not just what I thought was the top, like 5 or 6 books from Monroe to Muldoon. Obviously, can't read Monroe because everybody's reading Monroe. But from Monroe to Muldoon to all the other books that are out there, this was in the top 5, this book, every time. So, for whatever reason. But I want him to elaborate more as to why he's not seeing his physical body, because that's what I'm fascinated with. So this is Tuesday, October 17th, 2006. Check the time out again, 2:40 a.m. That's another thing, too, that I'm noticing is like every time this cat gets out, it's like it's anywhere between almost 3 o'clock to 6 a.m. every single time. He says, I had difficulty getting to sleep, but after several hours of tossing and turning, I began to feel light rocking and trembling sensations. Now, I recognized the sensations as a sign that sleep was just around the corner. My mind was still restless, however, and the rocking sensation soon disappeared. Yet 10 minutes later, the rocking sensations returned. Now, this time, I found myself able to relax my mind until the full-fledged energy sensations were triggered. I soon reached the point of sensory release and flew up into the void. You remember what he was talking about? He talked about the void earlier, too, which is my usual pattern. However, just as I was about to set a destination, I was suddenly pulled back and found myself back in bed. Everything was quiet. If there had been an outside disturbance leading to my premature return, it was no longer there. And luckily, I still felt the energy sensations. I was still fairly deep in and probably could separate again. And this time, that's crazy. A letter just slid under my door in the shack. I think my dad probably walked by and put it there. I hope, because if not, that's really weird. Okay, so this time, however, rather than flying away, I decided to conduct an experiment. I looked down my body, and the light was dim, but I could clearly make out the outline of what I assumed was my physical body underneath the comforter, with my arms dropped on top of the comforter. Without meeting any resistance, I lifted 2 phantom arms out of my physical body. I could clearly discern the outline of my 2 phantom arms, as well as my physical arms lying immobile on top of the sheets. Except for the 2 phantom arms, there was nothing to indicate that the rest of me was not in the physical body. I woke up shortly after and began to analyze the entire experience. Then it suddenly hit me. I was no longer lying on my back as I had been earlier. I was lying on my side with my right arm firmly locked underneath my body. I had never been physical in any way to begin with. Every part of me had been out during the experience. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And he even says that too. He says, look, this experience does not make any sense from the perspective that you are leaving the physical body during an out-of-body state. So just, you remember when Thomas Campbell was on Joe Rogan and he said, it's unfortunate that Robert Monroe called it an out-of-body state. But you got to remember too, like at the time, everybody was just calling it astral travel. It was really a woo thing, especially in like witchcraft and occult circles and all kinds. It was just called astral travel. And a lot of times when people were talking about astral travel, they weren't necessarily talking about an etheric or whatever you want to call it, OBE experience. A lot of times they were talking about lucid dreams or remote viewing. So it was very vague when they were talking about it. So the reason why Robert Monroe called it, matter of fact, he called it OOBE. The reason why he called it that was to distinguish what he was experiencing from what the rest of the world was calling astral travel. Just to be clear about that. So when my whole point to that is when Robert Monroe coined the phrase OOBE or out of body experience, it was an evolutionary step from what everybody was talking about beforehand. Now, we're looking at it as if, well, do you really, you have to do the steps, like Buellman talks about, or whichever steps work for you, like Robert Bruce or whoever. But when you find yourself outside of your body, are you really outside of the body, or are you just in like a different state of awareness or a state of vibration? That's the real question, or a different state of consciousness, And that's why he says here, look, this experience does not make any sense from the perspective that you're leaving the physical body during an OBE. It started out as a fairly typical out-of-body experience during which I flew up into the void immediately following sensory release. But once back in bed, I assumed I was back in the physical. So he made the assumption, hey, I'm back in my physical body. So I began to experiment with moving my phantom arms out from what appeared to be my physical body. Yet this was not my physical body at all. My actual physical body turned out to be, it was in an entirely different position. I had been separating my phantom arms from a phantom body that posed as my physical body. Now it's getting dicey, right? So if we want to like look at this logistically, okay, what are you saying? That you have a physical body, then you have an etheric double, and then you have another body that comes out of that? Well, hold on. Before we try to put a formula to it, let's let him finish, right? He says, I would suggest that this scenario always occurs when you leave the body. You start out with the sensorial informed body awareness, which is the physical body, while you're lying in bed. But once sensory input starts to retract, consciousness continues to provide a complete, realistic body image. This body image is the same body image that we occupy in ordinary consciousness, except that it's no longer sensorial informed. In other words, it's the same body. It's just not taken in physical senses, So effectively, you have already reached the out-of-body state by separating from just sensory input alone. Now think about that. You know how we've always been saying, all right, when you get to the vibratory state or when you get to sleep paralysis, then you get out of body. But the truth of the matter is you could technically already be out of coincidence with the physical body once you've reached the vibratory state. So what are you trying to achieve at that point? At that point, it's just, where do you want to go? So he goes on to say, however, once released from sensory input, you may still engage in some form of separation, thereby needlessly creating yet another body image. The latter typically occurs when you operate under the assumption that leaving the body is still necessary to achieve the out-of-body state, even while you have already separated from physical input. Upon separation, the phantom body that is left behind may be found lying in bed, posing as a physical body, or alternatively, it may just disappear altogether, with the bed left empty. But whatever the case may be, in none of these instances do you leave the physical body. In fact, once the process of sensory reduction is completed, all you have to do is just get out of bed in your phantom body. There's no need to create another body image. And that right there, folks, makes more sense than anything that he's said so far, in my opinion. You still with us, Bryce? I hadn't heard from you in a minute. Or did you disappear?
I'm listening.
Does that make sense, what he just said? It does to me.
I don't know. I don't know. It's like he's talking about making a copy of a copy.
A copy of a copy of a, yeah, like the 9 Inch Nails song. Yeah. Yeah, like he's saying that your mind makes it up. Like you make that copy, assuming that you still need to separate from your body. I know it's kind of hard to grasp, but it makes total sense to me now.
It's like the lack of sensory input is because you've copied your etheric copy, and therefore.
Like what happens when you get into sleep paralysis and your sensory input's dull, right? So either you get paralyzed or you might feel vibrations or whatever. We're at that point, there's something that we're telling ourselves still, oh, I'm in paralysis, but I still, like our brains are telling ourselves that I still need to get out of my body. When you reach that point of like heightened, deadened sensory input, right? You're out of your body. You're not even a part of your body. Your consciousness is separated from your body. You just don't think it is. So
okay.
In order for it to make sense, you start doing these things, going through the motion to separate from your body. So the mind kind of makes another phantom body that you separate from.
Yeah.
I know it's
I'm gonna
almost
say
like
something.
it's almost like a.
I was just putting it in the chat.
What's that?
I had a friend who was trying this stuff, and she had some questions. And I told her, I said, when you, like, I have this big giant ring that I have from a gumball machine one of my kids gave me, but I wouldn't wear it out in public. I save it in my jewelry box. I love the thing.
Uh-huh.
But I told her, put on a gaudy piece of jewelry like a ring or a bracelet. Put it on. Something you wouldn't wear out in public. Something that is totally unmistakable. So even when you leave your body and you look back at your body, do you see that piece of jewelry? Do you see that ring? Because that will help you to know and understand what you're looking at. Is it the reality, the physical reality that you're seeing?
Right.
Or is this the realm that you're in? Is that your realm existence?
Yeah, I guess that kind of goes with what he's talking about, right? Like basically what he's saying is there's no need. Like when you're in the vibratory state, let's say you get to sleep paralysis and then you get to feeling those vibrations, you're already separated from the body. You just haven't moved anywhere yet. Like, at least that's what I'm getting from it. You don't have to go through a separation process. Technically, you don't really have to. Just get up and go. And if I think about it, like that day that I told you guys, the first OB experience I had, I just sat up and I didn't even like know that I was not in my body, so to speak. I thought I was still in my body. Like I didn't feel any transition or anything. I was just like, oh shit, it didn't work. And I got up and I turned around and there was my body, you know? Like,
I love it. That's
was
exactly how it happened.
yeah, it felt no different than just being in my body. The only thing that happened, was the deep relaxation, the deadening of the sensory input, the paralysis, and the vibrations. That's the only. I didn't fall asleep and wake back up. I didn't feel a transition. Like everything looked the same as it does now, and pretty much felt the same. You know. So
I've noticed when we sleep, we're almost to a protective state of consciousness. And then once you have crossed the line or hopped that fence and you're actually truly in sleep, a lot of the time there's like this, I don't know how to put it, like a protective mechanism in the sense that you've gone beyond that point. You've already passed that doorway. And now you've fallen into the sleep zone. And for me, that's how I've noticed it is. So it's between the waking state and the actual like knockout sleep state that you're kind of can meander around and wander out.
yeah. Sudi said Robert Bruce's take was was that you copied yourself and that what was roaming about. Yeah. And you know, here's the cool thing about Robert Bruce's books, like Astral Dynamics, which I remember me and my ex took his course together, and that course was really helpful. It wasn't like a binaural beat guidance thing. He did have guided meditations, but there was a lot of feeling that subtle energy. So he would even have you take like feathers and things like that and kind of trace your body so that you could feel the subtle body, or this copy, I guess, or the subtle energy outside your body, which I'm not so sure if that's real or if you're just kind of tricking yourself into saying, okay, well, if I can feel this subtle energy, then I know I'm not really a part of my body. You know what I think is really happening here? I think it's like a freaking radio station, man. Seriously, like when you're in your body, you're at a certain you're at a certain frequency, you're at a radio station. When you fall asleep, that radio station turns kind of slightly. And in that turning of the station, somewhere in between there is a place called Hypnagogia where you could just slip out and roam around instead of going straight to that other frequency, you know. That's what I think it is. It's got to be, right? Because everything else, it seems like, and guys, if you've been listening to the show for the past, I would say since all of 2024, the more we get into this stuff, the more we kind of see how powerful our mind is, right? How powerful the subconscious is and what it does. It even creates things in the astral realm, things that we need in order to facilitate what we're trying to do. And we don't even know why it's doing it, which is freaking trippy, you know. Were you saying, did we cut you off, Bryce? Go ahead, brother.
No, well, what you're talking about the radio station thing kind of makes sense. It kind of resonates with me because there's a theory that I don't know if I came up with it or heard it somewhere, but to where our bodies are just, our brains are like antennas for an external consciousness, and our body just kind of, you know, downloads that, and we carry that around in our bodies, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would make sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you need the body to carry to produce the sound of the radio. Like the radio, or the actual physical radio would be the physical body, you know, and your brain is the thing that turns that frequency that you need.
Even like maybe even like a two-way transmitter, you know, you communicate with your consciousness in another realm while at the same time your body, I don't know how, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Because look, the way Thomas Campbell describes it, as he calls them data streams, because everything is a virtual reality to him. Right. So even if we like telepathy would be a certain frequency or a certain data stream, lucid dreaming would be a certain frequency or a certain data stream. This physical dense realm would be a certain radio station or data stream. The DMT experience, a certain frequency in data stream. Mushrooms, a certain frequency in data stream. Like everything sets us on a different station or frequency, so to speak. And this out-of-body experience is no different. It's just another, like he calls them data streams. I say frequency. It could be like a mixture of both when you get down to it, you know.
Uh-huh.
I more think of our body as a toolkit. I think our body is our toolkit because if you think about it and you've had that experience out of body, you understand we don't have the same level of emotion so intensely as we do when we're in our body. And I believe that emotion is also a very important key to getting there, to exercising these muscles. Because when you sit and you think, well, as far as manifesting, you want to have that thought, that intention, right? And then you have the visualization of what that might look like to live that life. And then you start to feel that, what that would feel like.
So you're feeling that frequency.
Brings you forward. Yeah, it brings you forward into that. And then the rest of you follows. And I believe it's like a toolkit. And as far as the hypnagogic state that you're talking about, let me explain it from a mommy point of view in a sense. So it's like the kids are they get on the school bus. They're supposed to go to school. So we get in the bed, we're supposed to go to sleep. You have that moment of time between the time that they get off the bus to walk into the school building to where they're supposed to be, right? Well, there's those moments in between from the moment they step off the bus to the moment they step in the door of the school where they could run off and go get loose. That's your hypnagogic state, in a sense.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. It's a good analogy. Sudi says, Tom also says chakras aren't real. So what's that about? Like, I don't know. Look, I'm not in like I would consider myself a spiritual person. All right. And at the most, if I'm really getting into it, I'm more of a hermeticist. So practical, traditional, like ceremonial magic and the Kabbalah is really the only spiritual stuff that I'm familiar with. And the only reason why I do that is because it works. And it lines up with a lot of things that I've experienced. As far as the reality of like chakras and energy centers and things like that, I mean, it could be something that we've made up since the beginning of time. It could be an egregoric thing. Who knows? But if at least Tom's willing to say and come out and say, like, look, you know, I've been getting out of body and doing all this stuff and practicing this different modes of consciousness my whole life, and I have not experienced chakras. So who knows? I might actually look that up after the show tonight. Like, I didn't know that he didn't believe in chakras. I have my kind of like doubts about them. Like, not as much as I doubt Bigfoot, but I have my doubts about that we actually understand what they are, you know. But anyways, that's a whole nother subject. So last thing before we roll out of here tonight, he says, now occasionally the belief that one still needs to separate while already completely free from physical limitations leads to confusing but amusing situations. The same phenomenon also has been referred to as a false awakening, and that shit is freaky. That's happened to me, in which one fails to realize that one is no longer part of ordinary physical reality, such as in the following experience. Now listen, guys, I got to tell you, if you've had a full-fledged false awakening, and then a false awakening after another false awakening, and you're stuck in this thing where you can't wake up. That is one of the freakiest places I've ever been in my entire life. And if you've seen that movie, Waking Life, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it, because that's exactly what it felt like. Like, I thought I was dead for a while, thinking, dude, I'm just stuck in this weird loop I'm never going to wake up from. And all of this happened, by the way, too, because I was exploring consciousness, trying to get out of body. You know, I was actually doing hermetic magic and the OBE stuff all at the same time, you know. So Stuff got shifty, but this is Saturday, October 28th, 2006. Guess what time? Once again, 3:15 a.m. He said, I had a confusing out-of-body experience last night. I woke up at around 3 a.m., and for a while I hovered near the borderline of sleep until the energy sensation started. A few seconds later, I reached the point of sensory release, and as a matter of habit, I rolled over in bed to complete the process. I must have been lying at the edge of the bed since as I rolled over, I promptly landed in between the nightstand and the bed. It felt quite uncomfortable, with the edges of the nightstand digging into my skin. So I immediately reasoned that I must have rolled over physically and fallen out of bed, especially since he's feeling the pain of it, right? So I stood up, feeling a little foolish. How I managed to roll over physically was beyond me. I could have sworn I had reached the point of sensory release, but luckily my wife was still soundly asleep. I got back into bed, and once again, after going through all the motions before separation, I continued to roll over several times more in an attempt to separate. I didn't fall off the bed this time, but each time I rolled over, it felt as if I was moving my physical body. Something clearly wasn't right here. And eventually I simply gave up, moving back to full wakefulness. Only then did I realize I had been out of my body all along. What about experiences in which you exit the physical through selective parts of the physical body? Ernst Wilty, for example, reports leaving the physical body through the head. Would this not indicate that you're separating from the physical body rather than merely separating from sensory input? Indeed, on the surface, an experience in which you exit the physical body through selective parts of the body seems to suggest that you are literally leaving the body. Again, however, you're not exiting the physical body in these instances. I think this is crazy. That's crazy. Think about this. Like, you're rolling over in your bed next to your wife. You're trying to get out of body, and you roll over so hard that you roll off the bed in between the nightstand and in the bed. I would feel like an idiot too. I'd be like, shit, I fell off the bed. I can't believe I didn't wake up my wife. You get back in bed, and because you're at this kind of level of wakefulness or whatever, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to try it again. And every time you roll, you feel like you're rolling your physical body. And yet the whole time, you were out of your body the entire time. So did he, then I don't understand. Is his body, he doesn't say it in the book. Is his body laying on the floor? Did he actually fall between the bed and the nightstand? Or is that feeling of the nightstand pushing into his back? Did his brain make that up? When did he get out of body? Like, this is where shit gets weird. It gets kind of Twilight Zone-y. You know? You don't know what's real and what's not. It's almost like that gets to be a scary place. For me, it wasn't like that at all. The false awakening thing, I just thought I was awake, and I wasn't. So I kept fighting to wake up, but I never fully woke up. It took me 4 or 5 tries. And there was like an entity near me too that I think was messing with me. That's a whole other story. Could have caused it, but this is what I'm saying. When we're getting out of body or trying to get out of body, there's all kinds of stuff that we're contending with here. One, our beliefs. Our beliefs make up everything. Everything that we believe is real is what's going to make up our experience. So him trying to roll out of his body and rolling off the bed into the nightstand, his whole mind could have made that up. Just bear with me. Like, maybe some of you haven't had this happen, but I have. I've been in a dream and had someone either hit me, punch me, push me, whatever, and it felt as if it would feel in real life, but it wasn't really happening. That's how powerful the mind is. So if you get to playing with this stuff a lot, and hopefully you will, there might be times where you don't really know what's real. And that doesn't mean that you're going crazy. It just means that it actually means you're getting somewhere, and it's okay. But if you get stuck or in a confused state, I'm sure Sammy's probably familiar with that too. Like, if you get into a place where you're not sure if you're dreaming, out of body, what's going on, it's best not to panic. It's best to just go with it, because it seems like the more you panic, the worse shit gets. honestly. But either one of you two want to say anything before we roll out of here? I think we went the full 2 hours tonight. This is the last show of the week too.
Well, anything that I ever say about any of this is just purely from my own personal experiences in life.
Fair enough.
So I try to help people to understand they are powerful and this really is a thing that you are capable of, but it's been conditioned out of you over time. We all have to get an education. And so it is conditioned out of us. Those are muscles that you can continue. If you continue on this path, it will eventually happen for you in your own way. And just keep it up because there's more of you for you to discover.
Bryce, do you want to say anything before we roll out of here?
I can't really think of anything, but yeah, it was a good talk.
Yeah, I just like having people to actually talk to in here instead of me talking to myself or whatever. You know, it's cool. It's a lot better. Not that I don't love talking to all of you in the chat room. I definitely do. Y'all are always a part of it too. But it's always cool.
Thank you for having me. I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all have a good night. I'll be listening.
You're
too,
welcome.
Sammy.
It's always good to have people involved, you know. So, by the way, yeah, someone messaged me about this. So I do want to say that we are working on an actual event that we're trying to do this year. I want it to happen in 2025, even if it's the end of 2025. I don't care. I just want us to have a get together, an event of some kind in 2025, and I would love it if Mary was there too. I've already talked to Mary about it, so we're trying to get that together right now as we speak. So yeah, let me see if I can find a track that's not going to get me banned before we get out of here. Make sure you join the Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, please do so, because that's where we hang out. Because if we don't, we broadcast Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on here, but the rest of the time we're all hanging out somewhere in the Discord world. So if you're not a part of our Discord, then you're probably, you're missing out a little bit. And yeah, I think that's all I need to say. Oh, support the show if you can. Love you guys. Sweet dreams. Night night.
Forward slightly. Look straight at the speaker and listen with a sparkle in your eye, as though you might be thinking, gee, this is the most wonderful thing I ever heard in all my life.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. I do.